Three, two, one, let's go. Three, two, one, let's go.
Boom.
What is up, Superhero Crypto Ninja family? Bringing you another weekly video with my guest who's now undoxed. His name is Crypto Angel. For some reason, his filter is not working, but that's okay. So today we have a very interesting topic, which is basically going to show you guys the relationship between trading, whether it's stocks or cryptocurrency, and relationships, specifically romantic relationships. So we have a few key terms that if you are a trader, you will be able to identify with. And maybe some of you have made this correlation, but I bet you a lot of you haven't. So this was something that we stumbled upon when we were discussing relationships in one of our other YouTube channels. So without further ado, let's just get started. I'm going to list some terms and just talk about them from a trading perspective, and then we'll see where the conversation unfolds. The reason this is actually very important is because I think when you can grasp different aspects of your life, whether it's in relationships, health, or wealth, and you can apply them to the other aspects of your life, you can see things from a different perspective and maybe upgrade the different areas of your life through this. So the first one we have is resistance levels. So this is something, if you're a trader, you know very well. A resistance level is basically a level where price tries to come up to, oh my God, and then it tries to it tries to break through the resistance. So these are key resistance levels. Now, typically, price will not just shoot up and break through resistance levels on the first try. Typically, they get rejected maybe 3 or 4 times. And then finally, when the price does break through this resistance level, it breaks through in a huge way and it creates a huge momentum. And this is what traders try to do when they long a breakthrough of a resistance, which I actually don't trade, but I know a lot of you trade breakthroughs. So that being said, this is similar to relationships in the way that, as you know, you can hit a lot of different conflicts in your relationship. And these are, you can think of them as similar things, like levels that you have to get past. And so let's talk about this, Boris. What do you think about this?
Yeah, awesome. Like, I wonder if we at some point should introduce like the visuals, or if it makes sense. But
yeah, I'll show them in the post edit.
Yeah, awesome. So like one way to think about the resistance levels, like in your relationship dynamic with your wife, your girlfriend, or maybe for our female viewers, your boyfriend, your husband, whatever it is, your partner, resistance levels are those places where, like, in the most clear way, it's like the places where there's no love. Okay, it's the places that are unloved in ourselves, or in our partner, or in like that amalgamation that we kind of create together. Some places we come together and we're kind of like disgusted with each other. It's like, oh, you're not going to meet my needs, and you're just going to be like this, and we come up with a label like, oh, you're a lazy pig, or like you're, and that's us bumping up against this resistance level. We're like hitting it, and it's like, oh, we're getting rejected. We hit it, and it's
some of us get rejected 20 plus times, even worse than trading.
You get rejected, which means that you didn't break through to love. You didn't actually, how can I say, love the unlovable. Because why are we with our partners? Like, if we really take a look at this, like, and similar to why are you trading, right? You are trying to come to another level of basically financial well-being, right? Financial prowess, financial greatness. But if we think about relationship, I want to offer you this, that you are in relationship to come to the next level of love, to the next level of fullness, next level of sense of like, wow, I am rich in my loving, in my life. And so that's what it is. We hit those resistance levels and we don't know really, like, we don't know what we need in order to pass through. But when we start to really understand, like, just like also in the stock market, what do you need? Right? You need patience. That's primarily it. Like, if it's not this time, if you guys are trading breakouts, you have your low stop loss. It's like, oh, okay. So it's just patience. When is the next time? When is it going to form the double top or whatever it is, or double bottom? And now I'm expecting it to come out. So that's what I would say. So those are the resistance levels. And then of course we also have the support levels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the next one. This is a very interesting thing. So after breaking through resistance, typically what happens is that previous resistance forms a new level of support. So now in your relationship, you've broken through, and maybe an example is what, Boris, you want to give one, like leaving the door open or something like that, or leaving the toilet seat up?
Typically the breakthrough looks like this: a real breakthrough, not a rejection. A real breakthrough is, let's say that somebody has disappointed, or let's say that your wife is disappointed with you, your girlfriend, your partner. And typically what you do is you kind of get defensive. That feeling is the feeling of hitting the resistance level. But when you just take a moment, the keyword is, the breakthrough keyword is vulnerability, and like vulnerability plus responsibility, this kind of like connection. It's like, well, you know what? I hear that you're really mad at me, but I truly love you. I know that what we're here is for love. So I'm willing to just put everything down. I want to hear you. I want to find a way for us to move through this together, because I know that when we love each other, we can do this. That kind of sense. Or maybe you can say to them something more vulnerable, like, oh, that reminds me of the way my mom used to tell me, like, how, like, do this and do that. And I feel like so indignant. I'm an adult. Like, I don't want to be talked to like that. Meanwhile, on her end, it's something completely different. She doesn't mean to talk to you like your mom at all. She just has her own kind of experience. So in that, we sometimes bare ourselves. We bare ourselves naked in relationship. Like, this is the way I am. This is what's true. And this is what my true intention is, which is obviously neither yours nor hers, is to hurt and to destroy and to create pain. That's not why you're in a relationship. But once you have that experience, and you have talked through, and you've maybe sometimes even cried, sometimes maybe it's like, wow, there's something deeper in there, then this becomes this new support level. Like, you start to like grow into this strength of like, wow, we bumped into that 20 times, and now, wow, we broke through, and we feel closer than we've ever felt before. That becomes your new support level. And when you're falling, boom, you start to remember, it's like, we've been through this before. I remember what works. It's not me getting defensive. It's not me yelling at you. It's not me calling you names because you are trying to get your need met. It's me. Okay, yeah, I remember. What did I do? I was transparent. I revealed myself. I shared the truth. I shared what my true intention was. I was strong in my remembrance that I'm here to love. And this, then, you remember this, and then you bounce off, whereas previously you could have fallen through.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful thing, that naturally we always seem to retest the previous resistance as support, just to make sure that it was a real breakthrough, and not just a false breakthrough. And sometimes it is a false breakthrough. We think we've surpassed something in a relationship, but it triggers again, and we fall back down, and support doesn't hold. But hopefully, if we're lucky, we can bounce off support, which is a good sign of progress and a continuation upwards. So
healthy
upwards and onwards. Yeah.
But I also want to highlight what you're saying. Retesting, it is like the most key thing that's happening in relationship, just like in the markets. Like, it's always retesting. Like, just because you pass through that, man, be ready, because it's going to come back down. It's going to want to break through that floor. And you got to be, it could be like just the next day. I had just this experience, like the previous day. Oh yeah, so much we like connected. Next morning, it's as if something, it's basically a retest. You're waking up, the markets are crashing, and you just have to be there, and you got to be like, okay, great. I remember how I handled this. So just want to really like second that, like, retest. Don't be like upset that it's happening. Just like you're not upset in the markets, you are actually banking on it. You're like, I'm going to make a buck because I know it's going to bounce off, or it's going to hit here and bounce off. So same thing in your relationship. If you just like wake up a little bit and be like, okay, it's going to hit. But now I know I can actually capitalize on it. I can short it. I can long it. I can really make a difference here because I know what's coming.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is trend lines. So if you're a trader, you'll know that sometimes your trading view screen can get quite messy drawing out these trend lines. And how trend lines relate to relationships are they're just trying to identify common patterns. So when you're drawing out things in trading, obviously you're trying to see where there are certain patterns, whether it's a trend line down or ascending triangle or descending triangle, whatever type of patterns that you trade. The thing about patterns, and the reason that your trading view can get really messy sometimes, is that they're very subjective. So when you identify patterns in your relationship, again, they can be all over the place. They can get really messy. There's so many different patterns and different habits that can be formed or identified. So one tip that I can give is not only for trading, but also in relationships, is stick to the most basic patterns, right? Once you identify a pattern, stick to it and try to zoom out at a higher time frame. So rather than, let's say, in a relationship where you're focused on the microcosm, like, oh my gosh, she left the toilet seat down or something like that. Zoom out. Like, what's really important? Zoom out to a higher time frame. Like, if you've been together for a year, is a toilet seat really going to matter, or is there a bigger perspective that you're not seeing? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really love it. It's basically like it's pattern recognition, and the keyword that stood out to me from what you're sharing is like that zooming out to a higher time frame. All of the problems are happening at these like micro detailed levels. It's like, oh, today, like you said this, and I heard you say it earlier, and you said it yesterday. But if you zoom out to like weekly, monthly time frame, it's just like this, nothing, like it's just this little like volatility that's happening, but you see it actually doesn't change the trend at all. It's like, it's just the ups and downs, right? As the trend keeps going in whatever direction. One thing that I would say that is like a little bit unique from the market in terms of our relationship, because the market is influenced by, well, we can talk about this. It's either influenced by many or not so many, but regardless, it's not influenced by your agreement with it. With a relationship, you can determine the trend to a certain degree, because of course, then it's still, yes, volatility, surprises, market conditions do come up. But that setting of the trend is this space of vision. Like, what are we doing together in a relationship? I think that this is a very rare thing for us to determine. Just like when you're doing the chart analysis, you're like trying to determine, is it going up? Is it going down? Is it a sideways market? Like, what is the trend? But here you're in partnership and you can say, okay, well, where do we want to go? But even before that, you can come to yourself and say, okay, let me analyze like the market structure of my life and decide where I want to go. Like, what is it that I'm here to create, to offer? Can I offer something in relationship, or am I just looking for like comfort and fun, a distraction away from my work? All of the billion flavors of relationship are perfectly okay. They're like valid and they exist. So you can go into any direction, but what you want to do is you want to discern, do a little bit of that market analysis, what kind of experience you want. That way you have way better. You can almost think about all the trend as being like your partner, right? Like, and if you can align what it is that you're looking for, and you say, okay, this is the right, trend for me, then you can create magic together. But if you're always going kind of like against the trend, against the grain, one is going that way, the other one's like hoping that it's going to reverse, then you're just like, you're basically like you're not appreciating each other. You're trying to change each other. Everybody feels it. And it's not like, it creates this very unjoyful, unfulfilling life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you mentioned something that was distinguishing between the two, which is, and maybe there is a hint in there, but I think most people would agree with you that in the markets or in trading, most things are external forces that we cannot control. So that's why patience is key. But yeah, in a relationship, you can definitely move and set intentions, clear intentions, and move with your partner, because it's just one person. It's not a country. It's not a government. It's not something else. But maybe there is a key in that maybe it is all in the internal world, and all this chaos we're seeing in the outside world is a reflection of our inner turmoil. So this does lead on to, go ahead.
Let's just expand a tiny bit here. Like there's a part that you're saying that I think is so valuable. We think we can't control market conditions. True, but we can choose the conditions in which we enter the market. Like if you want to play the Tokyo Open, you do that. You look at the currency strengths, you say, okay, yeah, JPY is going to be like this and it's just about to open. You get yourself an advantage. If you're just going to take any condition, every condition the market just throws at you, yeah, you have no control. You're completely at the mercy and you're just clicking there, you're waiting. But wake up like to your own power of choice and say, okay, I'm going to trade. When am I going to trade? When am I the best? Like what pairs should I like? Just create your terms, your conditions, and then face the market and say, market, when you come to my conditions, I'm going to play with you. If you don't come, I'm not going to play. And that way you are way more empowered rather than you being like some like little pawn and the market's like just beating you around and throwing you around. Just want to highlight that.
Nice. I love that. Let's move on to the next one, which leads in very nicely. This one's a term we've all heard, which is FOMO, fear of missing out. So this one, if we were to, again, step back and say the market is mostly external and it's out of our conditions. Well, FOMO might look like something like this. It's trying to do something. Actually, let's go to relationships. So it's like trying to do something prematurely without stepping back and planning. So this could be something like you have FOMO of, say, your parents are like, hey, why aren't you married yet? Or there's a family event that's happening and you just have to go, but your spouse doesn't want to go, or there's like a business event that you guys maybe don't agree on going to together. Again, FOMOing in a relationship is something very common. And the most common thing I can think of is like, premature steps on something that requires you to step back and maybe take a bigger look. So marriage would be one. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And even think about the FOMO that people experience in relationship about like, am I in the right relationship? Like, could there be somebody better for me? Like those moments in the fight, right? Like, oh, she calls you this, and you're like, I don't need this, and you feel like, oh man, if this is an opportunity cost, like what if there was somebody better out there? And by the way, guys, like that question remains with you forever. Like there is no way, just like in the markets, you're looking at one chart and your friends here like, oh my God, like this other chart, like it's about to, whatever pattern they're seeing. And now you give up you're like, oh, I was going to trade this pair. And now, okay, well, I'm going to FOMO into that one. Now you got in late there and you missed your own thing, which you did the analysis for. Like this is this sense of FOMO. FOMO is basically telling you that there is, apart from this moment, there's something better than what's happening. But you see, the thing with this is that nothing is happening apart from this moment. Like this is the only moment that is actually happening. So like if you can commit yourself to your experience in the moment and know that in the moment it's right, you can choose to change partners, change pairs, change markets, whatever it is, but not from FOMO, not from the fear of missing out, but from your own vision. Like, what do I want? What would serve my purpose, my mission here? And that's also coming to the sense of knowing yourself, right? Knowing yourself, then being true to yourself, and then making that choice from there about the market, about your partner, about your relationship, but not from the fear of lack, basically. Because whatever you take, whatever energy is your initialization energy, your genesis, you're going to take that flavor of energy into whatever it is that you step into. So if you're coming from this fear of lack and you're like, oh, yeah, put my money here, it's like you are bringing this horrible, like shitty, like lackey energy into your next move. And it's like, oh, I'm going to get away from this trait in this woman. And then you go in there and you're hit with like, it's because you're moving not from faith, not from like courage, not from your own soul sense, but from fear. And it's never going to yield results that come from spirit.
It's like taking a beautiful girl, which is Bitcoin, and seeing that, oh my God, she's gone down 2%. She's not doing anything. She's not active enough. She's not changing. And then like moving on to some other girl that's called Luna or like Dogecoin for the fear of missing out, some shit coin / shit girl just because you have FOMO. Horrible.
A lady called Lunk.
Yeah, Lunk. She splits her personality in half and rug pulls you. Horrible. All right, let's move on to the next one. This is FUD, similar to FOMO. Now we have fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So in a relationship, this could look like maybe we hear some bad news, maybe some family or friends gossip about our significant other, and then we get discouraged. We take the wrong trade or wrong path in our relationship. So the question to you, Boris, what do you think about how do you tune up FUD in a relationship?
Yeah. So like the core of FUD is, again, like operating from something is missing, right? So it's like fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It means that you are looking out at conditions. You're not looking in to what is it that I'm here to create? What is it I'm here to give? What is it that I'm here to embody in relationship? Or as an investor, right? It's like, what am I here? Like, what are my strengths? How am I going to leverage my strengths? Where are the places where I feel like I'm resourced, which open, or, what pair or whatever it is. Instead, we're just like, it's very like FUD promotes FOMO. Like when you're living in fear, uncertainty, and doubt, you always think, oh, the better is somewhere else. And you want to try and get it. So in relationship, it's very similar. It's like you will catch traits. You see, the way that we're set up in our psychology is that we very often become involved and attracted to somebody who matches our wounds, who matches like this things like very classically, it's called getting the love that we couldn't get from our parents. Okay, so we will see something in our partner, like a slight look or a tone of voice or something like that, and it will trigger in us this like fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Oh, how could she have said that? If she was really my partner, if she was my soulmate, she would never say things like this. But the truth is that in our relationship, this is the truth of relationship does bring up and out fear, uncertainty, and doubt. This is a truth that's not very well embraced in our society, because we want our relationship to be like our safe haven. But it's because it is our safe haven that it is also the home where fear, uncertainty, and doubt can melt and reveal themselves. They're already in you. This is the thing to remember, that they don't come from the relationship. They don't come from the markets. This is the really cool thing. It's like, all of us are sitting here watching these charts move around, and we're having emotions. We're like, I feel, and we're going through this, and it's completely impersonal. That chart, that like little snake, those bars are not doing it to us. Just like our relationship is not doing it to us. It's not making these qualities of fear, uncertainty, and doubt manifest in us. What it's doing is it's bringing it out of us. Just like the markets and the charts, they're bringing it out of us. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. What am I going to do? So here at this point is where it comes in, like this, like more, I would say, like spiritual conscious clarity about like, well, what do I want to do? I want to take responsibility. Like the only way that you can make any changes to what you're feeling is if you take responsibility for it. Just like with the markets, like we were saying earlier, make your own time, make your own conditions for the markets. In a relationship, you also very similarly, it's like, oh, this is happening. Well, this is happening. What can I take responsibility for in this experience? And you make a list. I promise you this, like if you take whatever has triggered you and you wrote out your list about what you can take responsibility for, which part is yours, it's going to diffuse like at least 50 to 80% of any kind of like fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because you're going to see, wow, I played such a huge part in it. She may have given you that slight, but you might have said something a moment ago that was like a little poke at her, and so you get to discover that. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome. So yes, fear, uncertainty, and doubt can definitely lead to our previous one, which is FOMO. It can also lead to something that we all experience, which is when we experience fear, uncertainty, and doubt, we can now experience hesitation to invest, whether it's hesitation to invest in a trade or hesitation to invest in the market. So yeah, exactly. In a partner or a relationship. So I know we've all experienced this, where we just step back and we're like, I don't know, should I take this trade? Should I go long or short? There's too much news. Or most likely in a partnership, it's like, should I invest more time and energy in this? Is this a time sink? Am I going to regret spending more time with this partner? Should I move on? So do you have any thoughts around hesitation?
Yeah, hesitation, again, like all of these fear-based things, they have to do with us looking out to find out, am I okay? Okay. I don't know if this is so obvious, but if we really break it down, it's like, well, if I invest more time in this relationship and maybe it doesn't pay out, then maybe I've lost something. I've lost an opportunity. Maybe in the core of it, it always comes to this space of like, maybe I won't be okay. Like maybe I won't be, and okay can be a symbol for loved, embraced, belong, a good person, worthy, all of this. But this is the key, is like, this is why we're taught for eons or centuries, like, don't judge by appearances. Don't look out and try to figure out based on what you see something about yourself. Look in to determine about yourself and then bring that quality outward. So I'll share from my experience, hesitation has definitely been like a big part, like in my journey through relationships and in relationship. And in my most recent relationship, my marriage now, like I could feel myself at each step be like, should I propose or not? Like, oh man, I don't know. Like maybe again, that sense of like FOMO, that sense of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, that sense of maybe there's something else. But I took this step, and I took this step not for my partner and not to gain something, but I took this step as a step for me. It was my step into commitment to love. Like I wanted to know what it is to love unconditionally. How do I like look at this beautiful shining creature, like so cute, and then she says something and then boom, I blow up. How could this be? I wanted to break through that. I wanted to transcend that. I wanted to know the truth, because I knew that she's not like, she doesn't have that power over me, and yet I seem to be experiencing it. So this is the thing, is like when we take action in the market or in relationship based on our inner conviction, our inner vision, our inner insight, like what we want, like our heart's desire, however we want to talk about it, but it comes from the inside out, then you are there just developing your skillfulness, your soul sense, your strength, your spiritual backbone, your prowess as a refined human being, as a self-actualizing human being. That's what it's about. So like that hesitation, yeah, but know where it's coming from. Is it because you're looking out and trying to fill a lack that you think you don't have? Or is it just healthy hesitation because you're like, wait, I don't know. It looks like it might retest. I'm going to put my, buy order here instead of just jumping in, and maybe I'll miss it, but, I'm playing by my rules. I'm playing by the game that is true and coming from the inside out.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think a lot of hesitation comes from overthinking.
Yes.
And so one of the things you can do to avoid, like say you're like, oh my gosh, I take a trade and you don't know whether to long or short it, just take a deep breath, and then step back and see what's actually happening here. Is Bitcoin really in a bear market at $19,000, or is it still an amazing asset that's $19,000, So rather than thinking like, oh my God, it just dropped like 5%, is it going to go down or up? Like step back and that will help you, I guess, invest in trade. So take a deep breath. And that also includes whenever you're in a heated moment with your partner. So speaking of bear markets, now that we are quote unquote in one, a lot of you are probably looking to short the market. So rather than longing the market, you assume that it's a bear market and say you think it's going to happen or is still going to occur for the next 6 months to 2 years. You're going to look at shorting the market. In relationships, this can look like betting on downfalls in the relationship. So just want to say that downfalls are like a natural part of life and the universe. Everything comes in cycles. And the more that you're ready for them, the more or the better you'll be prepared for these downfalls, whether it's in stock market, crypto, or relationships. Now, there is a fine balance between expecting downfalls and not projecting that you're going to be always experiencing downfalls in your relationship. So do you have any thoughts on that? How do you balance preparing yourself for a downfall versus creating the reality that there's going to be some sort of conflict or downfall?
Yeah. What if we take the analogy like a sports game, where it's like, we go into this thing. We go into this because we know it's fun. Like we want this challenge, but there is a challenge. Like we enter into the game, let's say basketball, like we're playing against each other, whatever. Like there is an inherent downside to it. Like it's not just all in. It's not just like, oh, I shoot every basket goes in, nobody ever checks me. That is a stupid game. Like there has been no game created in humanity, no game that like has become popularized in consciousness that has no challenge, right? That doesn't have an obstacle, that doesn't have a block to like smack you back down. No, they all do. And so it's about like understanding the nature of the game, the nature of experience, not projecting like, oh, well, I'm going to get smacked down. Oh, what's even the point of playing because there's going to be obstacles? No, man, what's the point of playing? You are playing because you want obstacles. Like, that's why we go to the gym. That's why we like, chase women. That's why we like all of our sense of achievement and exploration and adventure is all about this. We know that we will be confronted with a challenge. So why do we enter into a relationship and feel like, well, you know what? It should be easy. There should be no challenge. You should just like lay down and spread them and surrender to me, right? Like, okay. Just though, like what that is that is a projection of a fantasy. Like that is you taking a very childlike, innocently so, idea of relationship, and you're kind of thinking, oh, it's a mommy relationship. This is actually at the core of a relationship. Why do we talk about like girls having daddy issues, boys having mommy issues? This is what it is. We project this like unconditional love expectation onto our partner. And then when they fail to be unconditionally loving, just like even our parents failed, well, then we just are berate and we're just like, yeah, screw you. I'm going to find somebody better. But man, woman, we're forgetting that like the very essence of our experience is one of like up and down, light and dark, day and night, up and, all of it is part of it. Like the market never just goes up. The market never just goes down. It is always going up and down, and it has a particular trend. So the real space, I think, here is just to open to the reality and to say, look, the market will go down. I'm going to have opportunities to short and to long, like on a smaller time frame, like just like every 5 minutes if I want to, every 15 minutes, there's this opportunity. So it's like we can brace ourselves for it in an exciting way, in a way that's embracing it. It's like, yeah, today you and I, we love each other, but we're going to encounter some challenges, and how we handle them is going to be our amazing opportunity, our adventure. So let's get ready. This is a conversation you have kind of like with your partner in a sense. And you just say, well, like, how do we meet our challenges? And this can be a conscious conversation where you kind of like write it out. And you can even think about the same way with the market. It's like, okay, like, for example, one group I'm in, one of my friends has this rule. It's like, oh, if I lose like 5 in a row, I'm out. I'm not going to play anymore that day. I don't want to play revenge trading. I don't want to get my emotions involved. I lose 5, done. Okay. Or if I win 5, I'm done. So that is like a way that you can learn to like gauge and navigate and negotiate the experience of yourself with the market and yourself within relationship.
This is such an awesome topic. I hope you guys are really enjoying this content. If you do like this content, I'm going to leave a link to a podcast that we did specifically focusing on conscious spiritual relationships, which I think you will really like. The topics that we're talking about here might be a little bit surface level, but I'm sure you're still resonating. There in that podcast, we dive deep into more about what's happening in the inner world when it comes to relationships. So I'll leave a link below. Make sure you check that out. I just want to end with a quote that a lot of people will be able to resonate with, see if it sparks any last conversation. So the quote is, and if you're in trading, you heard of this before. And as you're looking at the charts, and this is the quote: "The past does not dictate the future, but it does rhyme." So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, what we're really saying there is like, it's very similar to the one that's like, the trend is your friend until the end. Yes. Right? That rhymes too. Yeah. So, but what that's talking about is like, yeah, you can trade the trend and it's really good. It's predictable, but you don't know when, but at that perfect moment, the trend is going to break. And that's
exciting.
Yeah. It's pretty exciting.
The unknown. Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're essentially like open to it, you understand. Like there are traders, and I like, again, I would say I'm a pretty novice trader, but like, okay, we can come in with like very innocent expectations. It's like, like just this like intense aversion to risk, intense aversion to loss. And it makes you like cut your wins short. It makes you like take stupid trades. So it's like, when we look at our historical data of relationship, one of the best ways that we can use this is to really understand what are those repeating patterns, and take a look at those repeating patterns. Like, let's say like, oh, whenever the conversation of like dad comes up, or like Father's Day, me and my partner fight, right? And it's like, okay, so then you zoom into this a little bit. You zoom into like this conditions, these market conditions, and you say, okay, well, what is it that's happening? And you bring this with relationship. It's a little bit more involved in the market, because you have to have your partner's agreement. But in the same sense, it's like you are there for love, and you can inspire this in them. You say like, hey, look, you and I are here to experience love in all the places where right now we're maybe not experiencing it. This is my goal. This is my vision. You can say that as a man or even as a woman in a relationship, and say, hey, this is what I want. I want to create a relationship where we feel love and we feel deep sense and trust and connection, no matter what's happening, what event we're in, what circumstance, what emotions we're moving through. Would you like to create that? And they say, yeah, I'd love that. Everybody wants that. And so what we do then is we zoom into these parts and we say, okay, again, like, what can we each take responsibility for? And as responsibility is being taken, you will find like, oh, wow, like I've had like, maybe your partner writes down like how much pain she experiences in her relationship with her father, right? And you then begin to really create understanding instead of blame, instead of judgment, instead of like all of this. So the historical data, like our goal actually in relationship, maybe in other places we can use it differently, but here we want to break the pattern. We want to essentially like use this historical data and be like, okay, how do we create something different? How do we create something better here? So, and when meanwhile in the market, we have this other space. We have the space of like, we're using this historical data to predict the future, right? To try to discern what's going to happen. But at the same time, again, we're also open and expecting for the pattern to break, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. I love this conversation. I gotta go, unfortunately, but hopefully you ninjas out there appreciated this episode. And again, check out the link for our other podcast. And I think I might take a trade after this, and also go on a date. So I'll combine the two, and I'm feeling really positive. So I might go for a long.
I love it. Use leverage.
Yeah. Yeah, you use some leverage. Oh yeah, that's another one we didn't talk about. Maybe we'll do that in another episode. So that's it. Thank you guys so much. God bless, and stay safe out there. And I appreciate you, Crypto Sage. And
likewise.
We will see you again, guys. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.